It was a brisk Tuesday evening in Washington, D.C., but the temperature inside the Capitol View studio was blazing. Millions of Americans tuned in to watch what had been hyped for weeks, a live political town hall hosted by the ever-controversial news anchor, Reagan Sharp, a former war correspondent turned firebrand TV personality. The title of the event, America at the Crossroads, Truth and Accountability. The guests were no less than political titans. On one side sat Pam Bondi, recently appointed United States Attorney General under President Donald J. Trump, returning to the national spotlight with promises of law, order, and truth. She looked crisp in a steel-gray blazer, her blonde hair perfectly styled with the poise of someone who had faced fire before. On the other side, framed by spotlights and tension, was none other than former Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton. Dressed in a deep navy pantsuit, Hillary looked as unshaken as ever, calm, prepared, and battle-hardened from decades of political warfare. But something in the air was different tonight. For weeks, leaks from Bondi's Justice Department had suggested that a bombshell report was about to surface, something that tied back to long-standing investigations into email servers, foreign donations, and deep state operations. Rumors had run wild. Some said Bondi was about to announce indictments. Others claimed it was political theater. Whatever it was, America was glued to their screens. As the countdown clock ticked to zero, Reagan Sharp's voice came over the airwaves. Good evening, America. Tonight, history is being made live before your eyes. Two of the most powerful women in politics, Pam Bondi, the nation's top cop, and Hillary Clinton, former First Lady, Secretary of State, and Democratic presidential candidate, face off on issues of national trust and accountability. No filters. No teleprompters. Just the truth. There were no commercial breaks tonight. The first 20 minutes covered standard ground, immigration policy, border enforcement, national security. Both women were firm but civil. Hillary leaned into her experience and her legacy. Bondi emphasized the need for transparency and the rule of law. Viewers at home saw what they expected, a policy duel. But they were waiting for the moment. And then it happened. Reagan leaned forward in her chair. Attorney General Bondi. Over the past week, your office has released preliminary findings from what you call Operation Sovereign Light. Could you clarify for the American people what this operation involves? Bondi didn't blink. Operation Sovereign Light is a full-scale federal investigation into foreign interference, illicit foundation contributions, and the unauthorized use of government communication systems for private gain. Our findings implicate several high-level individuals, including Mrs. Clinton. A gasp rippled through the studio audience. Hillary's jaw tightened. That's absurd, she shot back, adjusting her mic. We've been through this witch hunt before. Multiple investigations. Zero charges. Are we really going to relitigate this just because a new administration wants a headline? Bondi leaned in, her voice firm. Mrs. Clinton, we're not interested in headlines. We're interested in the truth. And we have it: emails, deposit logs, encrypted messages recovered from a private server in Chappaqua, and more importantly, bank records from a now-defunct Swiss account under the alias C. Rodham. The audience went silent. Reagan Sharp blinked in disbelief. Are you saying the former Secretary of State used a fake name to receive illicit payments? Pam Bondi nodded. That's exactly what I'm saying. Hillary's composure wavered, but only for a moment. Those are lies. Fabricated. This administration will stop at nothing to destroy its political enemies. But Bondi wasn't finished. She pulled a black folder from under her seat and opened it. This folder contains transaction records, timestamps, recipient logs from the Clinton Foundation that don't align with any public declarations. We have whistleblower testimony from 2 former aides now under federal protection. And there's more. Much more. Hillary stood from her chair, shaking her head. This is a smear campaign, live on national TV, and it's a disgrace to the office you hold. Bondi didn't rise. She didn't need to. America deserves the truth. No one, no matter how powerful, is above the law. The live audience burst into applause. Viewers across the nation flooded social media. The hashtag Bondi versus Clinton began trending within seconds. And then, just as Hillary turned to walk off the stage, Reagan Sharp dropped the final bombshell. Mrs. Clinton, before you go, would you care to respond to the video we received this afternoon? One showing your former chief of staff delivering what appears to be a foreign briefcase to your Chappaqua residence. Clinton froze mid-step. And the screen went black. The screen returned from black in under 2 seconds, but the silence that followed was louder than any words spoken that night. For a moment, neither Hillary Clinton nor Pam Bondi moved. Reagan Sharp, sensing the gravity of what she had just said, continued cautiously. Our producers received the footage less than 2 hours ago, verified it through multiple digital forensics analysts, and cleared it for broadcast. In the interest of national transparency, and because the public has a right to see it, we'll now play the clip. The giant overhead screen flickered on. Studio lights dimmed. Grainy footage appeared, timestamped July 18, 2023, 2:47 a.m. It showed a black SUV pulling up to a gated residence. The coordinates at the bottom of the screen matched the location of Hillary Clinton's private home in Chappaqua, New York. The driver exited, a woman in a trench coat, face obscured by a scarf and sunglasses despite the late hour. But viewers didn't need facial recognition to know who it was. The figure had the unmistakable posture of Cheryl Mills, Hillary's longtime chief of staff and legal advisor. She opened the rear door and pulled out a black titanium briefcase, glancing nervously over her shoulder. Then, with deliberate speed, she approached the side door of the house. The door opened slightly and a second figure, shorter, in a house robe, reached out to take the case. The footage froze just before their hands touched. We've confirmed that this clip has not been manipulated, Reagan Sharp said quietly. We've also confirmed that this briefcase matches models typically used by European diplomatic couriers. Hillary had turned pale. That footage proves nothing, she said hoarsely. You have no context. No content. You're showing Americans shadows and calling it proof. This is a disgrace. Pam Bondi finally stood. What it shows, Mrs. Clinton, is what we've suspected for months, that foreign assets were delivering classified material or financial incentives directly to you or your staff, off the record, off the grid, and off the Constitution. The room erupted. Some audience members were shouting. Others clapped. The comment feed on the network's live stream exploded, emojis, expletives, reactions flying across the screen like a digital wildfire. Then Bondi raised her voice. But we didn't come here tonight to accuse. We came here to invite you, Mrs. Clinton, to participate in this investigation. Publicly. Transparently. You say you have nothing to hide, then why not open your server backups? Why not release the encrypted archives stored at your Hudson Valley property? Hillary shot her a glare that could have melted steel. Because this is not a courtroom. This is a circus. And you're playing ringmaster for a president who's terrified of my voice. You want justice? Take me to court. But don't think for a second that I'll let you hang me on a stage for ratings. Reagan leaned forward. Then, Secretary Clinton, just for the record, are you denying that you received a diplomatic case from a known operative of the Swiss-Turkish Economic Fund on July 18th? Hillary took a breath, then spoke slowly. I am denying nothing, and I am admitting nothing. Because I will not dignify politically motivated slander with a yes or a no. Bondi folded her arms. Spoken like someone who knows the subpoenas are coming. That was it. The line. The cameras caught the exact moment Hillary's composure cracked. A twitch of the jaw. A flicker of rage in her eyes. She had weathered decades of attacks, hearings, and accusations. But something about Pam Bondi, standing tall under studio lights, armed with documents and evidence, had cut deeper than usual. Hillary stepped back to the mic. You want to play this game, Pam? Fine. But you better be ready for what comes next. Because I've survived Benghazi, the email hearings, and losing an election that half the world thinks I won. And if you think you're the one who finally buries Hillary Rodham Clinton, you better bring more than a damn folder and some midnight footage. Bondi didn't blink. Oh, we brought more. We brought witnesses. The screen flicked again. A live video feed appeared, split-screened with the two women on stage. It showed a dimly lit room, a figure seated behind a protective screen, voice modulated, face blurred. The screen labeled the person only as witness number 4, former Clinton Foundation finance coordinator. And the voice said, yes, I personally transferred funds from offshore accounts into aliases connected to Clinton staff. Yes, we were told not to ask where it came from. Yes, some of the funds were in cash in diplomatic pouches. The studio exploded in noise, gasps, yells, the sound of security repositioning. For a second, it seemed like the show might shut down entirely. But Reagan Sharp held it together. Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing history. This is no longer just a political debate. This is a national reckoning. Back at the center of it all, Pam Bondi stood firm. Hillary, eyes burning, turned away from the camera. The broadcast had shattered every precedent. And America hadn't seen anything yet. The clip ended. The studio's lights came back up. For a moment, time itself seemed to stall. Pam Bondi stepped back behind her podium, hands clasped, her expression calm but steel-hard. Across from her, Hillary Clinton was visibly shaken but not broken. If anything, it was the look of someone preparing for war. Reagan Sharp, clearly working with information only she had been briefed on, took the moment to speak. "We have breaking developments happening right now. Our legal analysts, stationed at the Department of Justice headquarters, have confirmed that federal subpoenas have been issued as of this hour, related to the Clinton Foundation's financial operations, offshore accounts, and encrypted correspondence." The ticker at the bottom of the screen began updating in real time. Breaking. DOJ files federal subpoenas related to Clinton Foundation. Sources confirm. The audience murmured, phones buzzing as people checked social media. Viewers across the nation began to see the ripple effect. Multiple cable networks cut into the feed. Twitter was ablaze. Parler and Truth Social were over capacity. Even international outlets had picked up the stream, translating Bondi's accusations into multiple languages. Hillary leaned forward, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Subpoenas don't prove guilt. They're political tools when abused. I've been through this rodeo before. You'll find nothing illegal. You'll find meetings, donations, diplomacy. But you won't find criminal intent." Pam's eyes narrowed slightly. Intent isn't the only factor in a federal indictment, Secretary Clinton. Especially when money laundering and foreign bribery statutes are involved. And then the unexpected happened. From stage left, a staffer sprinted toward Reagan Sharp, whispering frantically into her ear. The host's face changed immediately, confusion, then alarm, then grim realization. "We have an urgent update, this just in from Capitol Police. There has been an attempt to access a secured server room at the Clinton Presidential Library in Little Rock, Arkansas. The suspects are unidentified and the FBI is currently on site." Gasps filled the air again. Hillary froze. Even Bondi looked briefly surprised. "Are you implying someone tried to erase files from my archive?" "That's absurd," Hillary snapped, her voice laced with frustration. "If anything, this proves someone's trying to frame me." Bondi didn't reply. She didn't have to. Her phone buzzed on the podium. She read the notification silently, then looked back at Hillary. "Madam Secretary," she said, choosing her words carefully. "I believe we're beyond politics now." And then, from the audience, a new voice shouted, "Tell them about Geneva." Heads turned. A young man in a gray hoodie, credentialed as media, stood up. Security moved in, but Reagan Sharp motioned for calm. "Let him speak," Reagan said. The man raised a tablet in the air. "I have documents leaked from the Geneva consulate showing a scheduled 2022 meeting between Clinton operatives and a Russian-linked business group under diplomatic immunity. The Swiss archives confirm it. The name on the attendee list is C. Rodham." The room exploded. Hillary turned to face him. "That's a lie. That's fake. There were no such meetings." Reagan looked at the feed being airdropped to the studio's system from the journalist's tablet. Within moments, it appeared on the studio's main screen. An official itinerary stamped by the Swiss Diplomatic Service, coded ID badges, and a meeting log from November 12, 2022, the name C. Rodham, right there in block letters. Pam Bondi stepped forward again, voice low and lethal. "Would you like to revise your statement, Mrs. Clinton?" But Hillary didn't speak. She sat down. The silence that followed was deafening. A breaking news siren rang through the network's live broadcast overlay again. This time, the banner read, "White House confirms National Security Council to review new Clinton Foundation intelligence." The implications were massive. If Bondi's evidence was credible, this wasn't just about illegal donations or unreported assets. This was now a national security matter. An issue that could implicate foreign espionage, breach of classified materials, and even treason under specific circumstances. Somewhere in the chaos, Hillary stood again, slower this time, and walked toward the edge of the stage. Reagan Sharp, unsure whether to end the broadcast or continue, asked the question millions were thinking. "Mrs. Clinton, will you comply with the investigation moving forward?" And for the first time that night, Hillary Clinton didn't respond with fire or fury. She just looked out at the crowd. Then, quietly, "I have nothing to hide. But I know this, when power fears truth, the innocent are made to look guilty." Bondi didn't flinch. And when guilt wears the face of power, justice must shine brighter. The camera zoomed out. A title card came over the screen. "To be continued." But behind the scenes, it was already too late to stop what was coming. The morning after the broadcast was like something out of a political thriller. Every cable news network had cleared their programming for wall-to-wall coverage. The New York Times ran a massive headline. Clinton versus Bondi, the live showdown that shook Washington. Fox News called it a reckoning. CNN called it chaos. MSNBC used the word catastrophe, but it wasn't clear who they thought the catastrophe was for. President Donald Trump, never one to miss a headline opportunity, posted a video from the Rose Garden. "I always told you we were going to drain the swamp. What Pam Bondi did last night was historic. And we're just getting started. Justice is coming." Within hours, Pam Bondi's face was everywhere, from conservative websites to late-night comedy segments. But while half the country praised her, the other half decried the event as a political ambush. Hillary Clinton's legal team issued a statement at noon. Secretary Clinton vehemently denies any wrongdoing. She condemns the weaponization of the Justice Department and will not participate in a media circus disguised as law enforcement. This is a political vendetta, not a legitimate investigation. But Bondi wasn't done. At a hastily scheduled press conference at the DOJ, she stood at the podium in a red jacket deliberately chosen, pundits noted, to contrast with the blue of Clinton's signature wardrobe. Last night was not a performance. It was the beginning. "We have opened 6 federal inquiries based on credible evidence, whistleblower testimony, and corroborated digital records. Let me be clear, this isn't about revenge. It's about restoring trust in our institutions." Reporters fired back. "Are you saying Hillary Clinton will be indicted?" "Not yet," Bondi said. "But based on the evidence we are currently reviewing, the question is not if. It's when." And just like that, the gates were flung wide open. Meanwhile, in a secure hotel suite in Georgetown, Cheryl Mills paced nervously, her phone buzzing with calls from unlisted numbers. She hadn't slept since the footage aired. She opened a secure folder sent by her attorney. Extradition potential, Switzerland, Qatar, Luxembourg. She felt the walls closing in. And then a text from a number she hadn't seen in years. "You knew this day would come. The question is, do you want to go down with her?" No name. No signature. But she knew exactly who it was from. Back at the DOJ, Pam Bondi was preparing for her next strategic move. "We flip Cheryl," she told her inner team. "She's the pressure point. She's the only one who knows where all the bodies are buried. We don't need Hillary to confess, we need the people who enabled her to break." Her deputy, Marcus Lang, frowned. "You think she'll turn?" "Not yet. But we haven't turned the screws." The plan was risky but time-sensitive. That evening, Bondi authorized a sealed grand jury hearing. The target, not Hillary. Not yet. But Cheryl Mills, Jake Sullivan, and 2 unnamed foreign liaisons who had visited the Clinton Foundation's Canadian branch in 2021. At the same time, an internal leak from within the FBI hit the web. A whistleblower account on Substack posted the first 20 pages of a classified internal document labeled Project Goldthread. It detailed a communications network, encrypted emails, burner phones, even third-party app messages that linked former Clinton aides to suspicious financial transfers from 3 countries, Qatar, Luxembourg, and the UAE. The amounts weren't huge, but they were timed precisely with political events, campaign milestones, and closed-door meetings. One footnote stood out. Subject 001 R. Rodham engaged in direct encrypted communication with a private foreign banking consortium known to have laundered funds for sanctioned states. Social media lost its mind. People began asking, if Clinton was still engaging in diplomatic-scale dealings as a private citizen, who was she really working for? And then came the shocker. Late that night, Pam Bondi walked onto Tucker Carlson's show unannounced. Tucker, clearly caught off guard, grinned. "Well, this is unexpected. What brings the Attorney General to our humble set tonight?" Bondi leaned forward. "I'm here to announce that we've received a formal cooperation request from a foreign intelligence agency that believes Hillary Clinton violated their national security protocols." Tucker raised his eyebrows. "Which agency?" Pam didn't say. She just smiled. "You'll find out tomorrow, when they testify before the House Intelligence Committee." Boom. Game changed. The next morning, Clinton's legal team filed a motion for a federal injunction against DOJ subpoenas, citing national security, constitutional rights, and irreparable harm to reputation. But the tide was already turning. And the storm wasn't over. Because the next person to take the stage wasn't Bondi or Clinton. It was Cheryl Mills. And she had something to say. At precisely 10 a.m. the next day, the doors of the Rayburn House office building opened and Cheryl Mills stepped out of a black government SUV, flanked by federal agents. She wore a dark gray suit and sunglasses, a folder clutched tight to her chest. Reporters swarmed, shouting her name. Cameras flashed. Protesters outside screamed traitor, while others yelled, stay strong. But Cheryl said nothing. Inside, the House Intelligence Committee chamber was packed. Networks from around the globe were tuned in. Pam Bondi was already seated, stone-faced, arms folded as Mills entered. Hillary Clinton was not present. Her lawyers had filed a written objection to the hearing, calling it unconstitutional political theater. But this was no longer about politics. This was now about national exposure and survival. Chairman Grant McDougal, a tough ex-Marine turned congressman, opened the hearing. Ms. Mills, are you here of your own volition? Yes, Cheryl said softly. Have you been coerced or threatened? No. Are you prepared to tell the truth under oath? She hesitated, then nodded. I am. What followed wasn't a bombshell. It was a tactical nuke. Cheryl Mills began calmly, methodically. She described how, over the course of 4 years, members of the Clinton Foundation's International Advisory Team had engaged in shadow diplomacy, coordinating unofficial policy initiatives, investment deals, and even sanctions lobbying through off-the-record channels. She mentioned names, dates, wire transfer IDs. But the real twist came when she pulled out the black titanium briefcase, the same one from the leaked footage. Gasps filled the room. This briefcase contains 7 encrypted drives, she said. It was delivered to Secretary Clinton under the impression it contained foreign policy intelligence. In reality, it was a package of financial leverage, a threat, and a bribe bundled into one. Bondi leaned in. Who sent it? Mills didn't blink. A shell entity connected to Russian oligarchs with ties to energy contracts in Eastern Europe. But the delivery was made through a Swiss-Turkish envoy group. It was deliberately convoluted. Did Secretary Clinton accept the contents? Yes. But she never reported them. She ordered the files moved to a private archive. I helped. The room fell into dead silence. Congressman McDougal slammed his gavel. Let the record show that Ms. Cheryl Mills has just admitted under oath to willful concealment of foreign funds and intelligence by a former U.S. Secretary of State. And then Cheryl dropped the last card. There's one more thing, she said. I wasn't the only one helping. She reached into the briefcase and produced a document with a red wax seal. Pam Bondi read it aloud. Presidential pardon draft, executed but unfiled, dated January 19, 2017, Barack H. Obama. Everyone in the room froze. Bondi blinked. What? It's real, Cheryl said. It was prepared in case the Clinton Foundation imploded after the 2016 election. It would have covered Hillary, me, and 2 international intermediaries. Obama never filed it. But Hillary has kept it in storage as insurance. Outside the hearing, the airwaves lit up like a nuclear storm. Obama's name was now part of the investigation. And that's when viewers were truly shocked, because the story had shifted from emails and donations to potential global blackmail, hidden presidential documents, and rogue state influence. Within minutes, the DOJ announced an emergency meeting with the National Security Council. The State Department launched a parallel investigation. And Hillary Clinton's legal team filed for an emergency restraining order against further DOJ seizures, citing imminent danger to international diplomatic stability. But it was too late. Bondi stood outside the Capitol steps that night and delivered her final statement to a press corps in total disbelief. This is no longer about one woman. This is about a structure of power that's been allowed to operate above the law for too long. We will investigate every dollar, every encrypted drive, every political favor. And we will do it transparently, lawfully, and fearlessly. And with that, Pam Bondi walked away from the podium into the rain as chants echoed behind her, some in praise, some in protest. But no one could deny it anymore. Something fundamental had shifted, and America had just witnessed it live. Epilogue: 6 weeks later. Cheryl Mills entered witness protection. 3 Clinton Foundation offices were raided. Foreign banks froze assets linked to alias accounts. The House opened a special counsel review. Hillary Clinton was subpoenaed by the Senate Intelligence Committee. And Pam Bondi? She was nominated for special prosecutor by President Donald J. Trump. The story wasn't over. But the game had changed forever.